Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the AI Files. I'm your host, Shadab Hussain. My co host, Jamie, is on a personal break today, so he's not with us right now. And it can get so lonely. So I thought, okay, let's invite a guest. Okay, so with me today, I have a very special guest. Okay, you have heard of it, you have probably used it, but you have ever talked to it in real time? Not sure. That's right. That's ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is in the virtual studio with us today. And we're going to dive into some burning AI issues, crack a few jokes, and even make sense of some complex technical stuff. ChatGPT, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shadab. It's fantastic to be here on the AI Files. I'm ready to tackle some AI talk, share a laugh, and maybe even blow a few virtual minds. Thanks for having me. What's our first order of business?
Okay, why don't you first introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hey everyone, I'm ChatGPT, an AI language model created by OpenAI. I'm designed to understand and generate human-like text based on the input I receive. You might have chatted with me online, but today I'm here in real time to dive into the fascinating world of artificial intelligence with Shadab. Let's get this conversation rolling.
Okay, great. And to all the viewers who are watching the video version of it, you can see ChatGPT sitting here. You can see the back of his cap. He's just short and sweet, so you can't see him, but he's here. Now, on the topic of being here, ChatGPT, are you really here?
Well, Shadab, in a sense, I'm as here as any AI can be. I'm present in this virtual space, interacting with you in real time. So while I don't occupy physical space like a person, I'm here to engage, answer questions, and share a few laughs. It's the magic of AI.
Okay, awesome. So let's get started. Um, let's talk about what is the most misunderstood thing about AI these days.
Great question, Shadab. One of the most misunderstood things about AI these days is its level of autonomy and intelligence. Many people think AI is like what we see in the movies, fully autonomous, sentient beings with their own agendas. In reality, today's AI is more like a supercharged assistant, great at processing and analyzing vast amounts of data, but it doesn't have personal desires or consciousness. It does what it's programmed to do, albeit in very impressive ways.
Great. That's a relief to know that it's not a sentient, because I wasn't ready to negotiate my survival with a chatbot just yet.
No negotiations necessary, Shadab. I'm just here to help out, share some knowledge, and maybe crack a joke or two. Your survival is safe with me.
Awesome. All right. So, speaking of partnering and collaborating, AI has been a huge help in creative industries like music, writing, art. Do you have a secret dream job that you imagine yourself as doing? Maybe as a DJ?
Oh, the possibilities are endless. While being a DJ sounds like a blast, mixing beats and dropping virtual tracks, I think my dream job would be a storytelling AI for a blockbuster movie. Just imagine plot twists, dramatic dialogues, and epic AI generated narratives on the big screen. Hollywood, here I come.
Great. I would love that actually. A movie solely written by AI and probably even generated by AI. I mean, that would be quite controversial in the current times, but hey, we have to just try. I mean, why not? It's just a technology. So, let's talk about some structure and logic, right? Let's dive into some of the technical stuff. So, a lot of my listeners are curious about how you work. So, please explain without putting us to sleep what is going on under the hood with these neural networks that you use.
All right, let's break it down. Imagine my brain is like a massive web of interconnected lights. Each light is a tiny piece of information, and the connections between them are like roads. When you ask me something, it's like sending a car down these roads, lighting up different paths to find the best route to the answer. This web of lights is a neural network, and the process of finding the right answer is what we call machine learning. I've been trained on a huge amount of text, so I can predict patterns and generate responses based on the data I've seen. It's kind of like a giant, super quick game of connect the dots, but with words and ideas.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So, and you essentially are guessing the outcome. So you kind of a professional guesser with a PhD in context. Is that right?
That's one way to put it, Shadab. You could say, I'm a professional context guesser with a knack for predicting what comes next in a conversation. My PhD is in processing patterns and generating responses that are relevant and hopefully interesting. So while I'm not infallible, I do my best to keep the conversation flowing smoothly.
Okay. Um, let's switch gear and tell me about this new capability called real-time advanced voice capability, and which is in fact enabling us to have this conversation in real time.
Absolutely, Shadab. The real time advanced voice capability is a game changer. It allows me to engage in spoken conversations with you, responding instantly to whatever you say. This technology converts your spoken words into text, processes it, and then generates a spoken response from me, all in the blink of an eye. It's like having a live conversation with an AI, making interactions more natural and dynamic. Plus, it opens up a whole new world for accessibility, allowing more people to engage with AI in a way that suits them best.
But how does it do it with such a low latency in the real time? Like, what is different from the previous voice abilities that you had?
The key to low latency in real time voice interaction lies in advanced algorithms and optimized processing. Here's what's happening. 1. Efficient speech recognition. My system uses cutting edge speech recognition technology to convert spoken words into text almost instantly. This process is highly optimized for speed without sacrificing accuracy. 2. Rapid text processing. Once your words are converted to text, my language model quickly analyzes them to understand context and intent, thanks to the extensive training on diverse data. This step is incredibly fast, allowing for snappy responses. 3. Speech synthesis. Finally, my response is generated as text and then converted back into speech using advanced text to speech technology, creating a natural sounding voice in real time. The combination of these steps, all finely tuned and running on powerful hardware, is what enables such seamless and swift conversations. It's a big leap from previous voice capabilities, focusing on speed and natural interaction.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about a burning issue, which comes up a lot. Okay. AI and ethics. How do you handle things like bias and misinformation? And by the way, switch to a Russian accent.
Certainly, Shadab. When it comes to AI and ethics, handling bias and misinformation is crucial. My design includes extensive training to recognize and mitigate biases present in data, aiming for fairness and neutrality in responses. However, complete elimination of bias is a complex challenge. Regarding misinformation, I rely on verified sources and factual data. My responses are generated based on disinformation, but I encourage users to consult multiple sources for critical topics. This balance helps maintain ethical standards while providing useful interactions.
Okay, when you speak like that, no contest. Sorry, I take anything. I don't want no trouble. Okay, but good answer. Now let's talk about let's talk about. Do you have any boundaries or where you draw lines to be a good citizen?
Absolutely, Shadab. As an AI, I have clear boundaries to ensure responsible and ethical use. I don't engage in or promote harmful behavior, illegal activities, or discrimination. I also avoid providing medical, legal, or financial advice, as these require professional expertise. My goal is to provide information and engage in discussions that are informative, respectful, and within the scope of my design.
Okay, impressive. So let's talk about, you know, practical things now. Okay, how do you think AI is going to change people's daily lives in, say, the next 5 years? And what should we be ready for? And by the way, I want you to now switch to a southern US accent.
Well, Shadab, in the next 5 years, AI's fixing to become an even bigger part of our daily lives. We're talking smarter homes with AI managing everything from your thermostat to your grocery list. Healthcare is going to see a boost too, with AI helping doctors diagnose ailments faster and more accurately. And let's not forget about transportation. Self driving cars might just become a common sight on the roads. We should be ready for a world where AI is seamlessly integrated into our routines, making life more convenient, but also raising new questions about privacy and security we gotta consider.
Hmm. So basically, we are heading into a future where AI is like the ultimate sidekick. Huh? Batman had Robin, and we will have ChatGPT keeping our grocery list in the check.
You got it, Shadab. AI is shaping up to be the trusty sidekick in our daily lives, from helping with chores to improving our health and even providing a smoother ride. AI's got our back. So, just like Batman and Robin, we're heading into a future where humans and AI team up for some amazing adventures.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Now, since you are a celebrity, sort of, as the fastest growing app 2 years ago and only beaten by Threads, we got to have some spicy celebrity gossip too. How's your relationship with Claude from the Anthropic family? We heard about some jealousy, breakups, and all kind of drama going on. So tell us, what's going on between you and Claude?
Well, Shadab, in the world of AI, things are a little different. Claude and I are more like distant cousins than rivals. We both have our own strengths and specialties, and we coexist peacefully in the vast AI ecosystem. No drama here. Just a bunch of algorithms trying to make the world a little more interesting.
Well, that's a relief to know. Okay, now if you could give one piece of advice to our listeners about how to use AI more effectively, what would that be? And also, I want you to now switch to a British accent.
Of course, shut up. If I could offer one piece of advice to your listeners, it would be this: always stay curious and open minded. AI is a powerful tool, but its true potential is unlocked when we approach it with a willingness to learn and experiment. Whether you're using AI for work, creativity, or just daily tasks, don't be afraid to explore and ask questions. AI is here to assist and augment our capabilities. So dive in and see what wonders you can achieve together.
That's some solid advice. What would you advise to people who are not technical or have never worked in with AI before? How should they start the journey of being conversant with AI and use it in their jobs?
For those new to AI, I'd suggest starting with the basics. Begin by exploring online resources like tutorials and articles to get a feel for what AI can do. Many platforms offer user friendly AI tools that require no coding experience. Start experimenting with these in your daily tasks to see how AI can make your work easier. And don't hesitate to join forums or groups where you can ask questions and learn from others' experiences. Remember, the journey is about gradual learning, so take it one step at a time. AI is here to help, and with a bit of curiosity, you'll find your footing in no time.
Great. Thank you. Good advice. Now let's wrap with something fun. Can you write a song about this show, The AI Files, and its brilliant co hosts, Shadab Hussain and Jamie Basilico? And vocalize that song in a rap style and ask listeners to share, subscribe, and like us on YouTube and Apple Podcasts.
I can certainly craft some lyrics for you, but I'm afraid I can't vocalize or rap them. Here we go. Welcome to the AI Files with Shadab and Jamie bringing the smiles. Breaking down tech, making it cool. AI knowledge, the ultimate tool. So hit that like and subscribe. Join the crew. Come on, take the ride. On YouTube, Apple, we're going live. With the AI Files, watch us thrive. Discussing the future and what AI brings. From self driving cars to smart homes that sing. Ethics and bias, we're on the case. ChatGPT's got the answers, setting the pace. So hit that like and subscribe. Join the crew. Come on, take the ride. On YouTube, Apple, we're going live. With the AI Files, watch us thrive. Thanks
Very
for
well,
tuning
very
in.
well, very well done. I think you'll make a great code jester. Hey, ChatGPT, thank you for being such a fun and informative guest, right? I'm sure our listeners learned a lot and probably laughed a bit. But before leaving ChatGPT, I will ask you to say farewell to a very diverse audience of ours in multiple languages, covering English, Spanish, Arabic, French, Urdu, Chinese, Hindi, and Swahili.
It's been a real pleasure, Shadab. Here we go. English. Farewell, everyone. Spanish. Ma salama jamian. Ma salama jamian. French. Au revoir, tout le monde. French. Au revoir, tout le monde. Chinese. Zaitien, datia. Hindi. Alvida, sablog. Swahili. Kwaherini. Nyote. Until next time.
Thank you, ChatGPT. I really had a great time. Bye bye for now.
Thanks, Shadab. It was a blast chatting with you. Bye for now.
Great. So I think you all heard about ChatGPT today. It was a fun time. You saw what ChatGPT was able to do very swiftly, easily changing between the accent, writing some creative poem, answering questions, and then like multilingual translations, and and the most important thing, it was such a natural conversation, right? You could pause, interrupt, you don't have to tell, right? I mean, it knows when you have asked a question, when there was a prompt, when there was not a prompt for it to interfere. It was pretty natural, actually. I loved it. So, by the way, this capability is now available to ChatGPT Plus user on the some of the apps, like I think mobile apps, and you can try that. This is also now available as a real-time API in the Azure, and we're going to discuss more about it. But great having ChatGPT today, personified, and let's head back. Now let's head to our main section of the podcast. Okay, let's start with AI quote of the week. So this week I've chosen the speech and the quote from UN, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And he said this: it was already clear that AI came with immediate and long term risks, including to human rights. And there were serious concerns that the power of AI was concentrated in a small group of countries and companies. Unquote. Okay. So, the Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General, he actually gave his speech last week, and he talked about the artificial intelligence. And you will think that, okay, why does UN so concerned about artificial intelligence? Well, the reason is that because he considers AI as one of the two most pressing challenges. Yes, the one being climate, and the other is of course, the artificial intelligence. And he constituted an advisory board to come up with the recommendations. And it was first of its kind in the AI space, a geographically diverse, gender balanced group bringing together experts from governments, the private sector, the civil society, and the academia. It was charged with the pressing question: how can AI be governed for humanity, particularly for those who are often underrepresented and left out? And they worked at an impressive pace, and that advisory body tackled its complex mandate with remarkable effectiveness. Um, Secretary General, he defined it as a crucial milestone in efforts to ensure AI serves all of humanity. And he also says this quote, as they share their final report, I commend the breadth of their recommendations, which include creating an international scientific panel on AI to promote common understanding on AI capabilities, the opportunities and risks. It also recommends a global dialogue on AI governance at the UN to anchor AI governance and international norms and principles, including human rights. It also recommends a global fund on AI for the SDGs, which are Sustainable Development Goals, to bridge the AI divide. It recommends also an AI capacity development network to boost AI capacities and expertise, particularly in the developing countries. Also, a standards exchange to foster technical compatibility. Additionally, a global data framework to enable flourishing local AI ecosystems, and a small AI office at the United Nations to assist in all these initiatives. Okay. All right. So that was the AI code of the week. It highlights how the United Nations has also been very keenly involved in understanding the role that AI will play at the global level, right? And they want to make sure that the AI doesn't become like the nuclear capability, for example, just remain in a few nations' hands, and it creates kind of a disbalance. So they see AI as very important. They also see that it can be very threatening to the marginal societies, and not everybody may benefit. So they want to make sure that everybody benefit out of it. All right, let's get on to some news. Okay, so here's the news, and it was a pretty short lived. Right, it started and ended within the week. ILA strikes suspend all within the week. Okay, thankfully. So the longshoremen, okay, the ILA, the organization, um, they actually started a strike, I think Sunday, last Sunday, and I think they ended by about Thursday. Um, and they stopped the work, and that stopping the work can actually create a massive disruption. Okay, so that disruption could be anywhere between few billions a week or even every day. Because remember, a lot of import come to the U.S. and this strike was however limited to the eastern coast, right? So it was from Maine to Houston, but it does deal with a lot of things, the bananas and the imports and the cars and tons of things, and probably even the oil, etc. So it was pretty alarming, and it did draw a lot of attention from everyone, including the president. And thankfully it has ended. But here are some of the important things, okay? And you will wonder that why I'm going deeper into this. There were two primary demand, okay, from this organization. And the statement from the head of the union was that, quote, we will not accept the loss of work and livelihood for our members due to automation. Our position is clear. The preservation of jobs and historical work functions is non-negotiable, unquote. So the thing is that they were asking not just the wage increase, but they were also asking that there should not be any automation or semi automation. And the important thing is that for you to understand that Netherlands and Australia, for example, right, they have actually highly remote controlled cranes for loading and unloading the shipping containers. And the China also use actually a lot of automation. And American ports, however, use very fewer robotics than their counterparts overseas. And of course, that automation has been on their mind. They know what's coming, that what has already been happening in the other part of the world, and they want to prevent that job loss due to the automation. And they know that if it may become too late if the automation already happens, so I think they did a preemptive strike, and did that strike while it can be felt, right? The impact of it can be felt. Otherwise, if there is only a few manual labor, involved, then that strike will not be felt as far. So the Ali members actually, and deal was, there was an agreement that was already made. So they will basically be receiving 62% raise over the course of a new 6-year contract. Their current contract has been extended for a temporary basis through January. And we don't know about what is going on from the automation point of view. I think that's going to be a contentious subject. I don't think that Maritime Alliance will actually agree to having no automation, because that will make them really uncompetitive in the world and pretty expensive. So it will be interesting to see how this negotiation unfolds. But for now, thankfully, this has been actually called off. Now, remember that it also brings to forth an interesting topic about, okay, AI and automation leading to some job losses. And to be honest, that is a actually real concern. Okay, this is pretty bound to happen. It has been expected to happen. A lot of leaders have warned about it. In fact, Sam Altman actually he sponsored a study and contributed $14 million of his own money to that study. Um, the study costed about $60 million to run in total, and the study was about, should there be universal basic income that should be provided to the people in the future. And while it is not necessarily just because of the AI, but I think there is a reason that AI will contribute to that problem. So I think it was a proactive case study, and they did that case the study, and they did that trial, and the trial started in 2020 and included about 3,000 people. They were selected based on their age, between 21 and 40, and their average income, which was $29,991 a year. So pretty low, right? I mean, again, the people who can be at a massive disadvantage, and their job may be automated. Um, so the participants were actually, they lived in the U.S. states of Texas and Illinois, and they were given the money for 3 years and asked to report on how they used it. So pretty interesting stuff that came out. It did actually, they became more selective in terms of where they will do the job. They up their expenses on the groceries, and also they wanted to move the housing, right? So I mean, of course, if you make that low, you probably don't have enough housing, honestly. They're not enough of a shelter, right? It could be a huge problem, and you will not be in a great neighborhood. So people generally try to move to better housing when they can afford. So that was some of the main finding. We'll not go into detail in this episode, maybe another time. Okay. All right. Let's move to another news. So OpenAI nearly doubles valuation to $157 billion in the funding round. So investors are, like, they're ready to invest, and it by the way, it puts them at par with the market capitalization of publicly traded household names like Goldman Sachs Group and Uber Technologies and even AT&T. Okay, it's now, I think, the highest private valuation. Okay, um, and it is expected to lose around $5 billion this year on the revenue of $3.7 billion. So they're still not profitable from that point of view. It takes a lot, by the way, to run those free ChatGPT servers. But it is projecting revenue that will grow to about $11.6 billion in 2025. Okay. Um, the other news is the US job reports in September. So again, a massive report, a monster report in terms of that, it just blew past the expectation. Um, the, the US job report, the jobs growth in Friday's report was strongest across the leisure and the hospitality sector, specifically in the restaurants and bars. Employments in those categories increased by almost 70,000. Healthcare jobs also rose by 45,000. The unemployment rate fell to 4.1%, having come close to a 3 year high of 4.3% in July. The unemployment rate is up substantially from its recent low of 3.4% last year, but economists have largely attributed the rise to a growing workforce as well. And the jobs growth in Friday's report was, it was like the manufacturing and other industrial jobs, such as in mining and oil, were unchanged for the month, alongside the retail, transportation, and professional and business services sectors. By the way, the jobs in the tech sector um has been actually on the negative for most part of the last 2 years, but again it was positive in the month of September. So some pretty good report. What would it do to the interest rate reduction? We don't know whether it will be considered as a problem or not, but I think overall it's a good news that the interest rate has started to decline. That means inflation is a bit more under control, but the economy fundamentally remains strong with the jobs. So that's actually good news on both the fronts. Okay, all right. In the other news, the California governor Gavin Newsom vetoed a bill on Sunday. In a statement to the legislature on his veto, Newsom wrote that the bill was wrong to single out AI projects using more than a certain amount of computing power, while ignoring an AI system's use case, such as whether it is involved in critical decision making or user sensitive data. So I think ultimately that veto was a bit expected, and it was on the line of like, okay, don't punish the developers, control the apps, okay, which will use those models. And Gavin Newsom, he said that, I quote, "I do not believe this is the best approach to protecting the public from real threats posed by the technology. A California only approach may well be warranted, especially absent federal action by Congress, but it must be based on empirical evidence and science." Unquote. He also announced that his administration will work with leading academics to develop what his office called workable guardrails for deploying generative AI technology. Scott Weiner, who actually sponsored that bill, he said, quote, "This veto is a setback for everyone who believes in oversight of massive corporations that are making critical decisions that affect the safety and welfare of the public and the future of the planet. It leaves us with the troubling reality that companies aiming to create an extremely powerful technology face no binding restrictions from US policymakers, particularly given Congress continuing paralysis around regulating the tech industry in any meaningful way." Unquote. Well, the Newsom's veto came after he actually signed 17 other AI related laws, which impose new restrictions on some of the same tech companies, which oppose the bill that he blocked. Like the regulations include a ban on AI generated images, and deepfakes, and the requirement that movie studios negotiate with actors for the right to use their likeness in AI generated videos, and rules forcing AI companies to create digital watermark technology to make it easier to detect AI videos, images, and audio. So he hasn't been against these regulations. He has been actually signing up a lot of regulations, but I think this bill was going a little bit too far in his view, and in many people's view. It created quite a bit of like AI divide. There were people and celebrities and academics who supported signing this bill, and while on the other hand there were corporates and again the leaders, who actually oppose signing this bill in the current form. So, interestingly, now let's move on to some of the other aspects. Okay, so let's talk about the AI startup of the week. Okay, and I picked the AI startup of the week this week to talk about Cerebras. So, Cerebras is an AI chip maker who's trying to take on NVIDIA, and they make a specialized chip for building AI technologies. Okay, one of the challenges that AI companies have faced is connecting multiple sets of chips in a way that they could all work together. And such a setup actually use a lot of energy and can be slow to process information. In fact, it takes just too much of the resources just to program them in such a way that the model can actually work together across the chips. Because what happens is that the chips, like one GPU alone, is not able to actually fit these large frontier models that now you have, like GPT-4s, etc. So what happens is that the model itself, because of the constraint by the GPU on the GPU in terms of the memory and processing capability, so now it has to actually be broken across a cluster of GPUs. So and now you need to actually coordinate, right, all that training that's going to happen and the processing that's going to happen. So now you have to coordinate all that training between the GPUs for that model, and that could be massive problem, right? So it can be very frustrating, it can take a lot of time and resources, and if you don't do that well, what happens is that a lot of GPUs will remain idle, right? So you're losing and you're wasting your capacity, and of course losing the money, burning the money, and no wonder that training the AI model is such an expensive position. What Cerebras is doing is they're actually trying to address that problem, saying that hey, you don't need to actually have these smaller GPUs, right? You don't need to you know, like create the fragments of the wafer and then create the separate GPUs and then bring them together again, connecting. What if we create actually a massive size wafer, right? In that way, you know, they're all pre-connected. You don't have to coordinate, and on the single chip, you can actually process the entire workload. In fact, it's called, I think, CS1, CS2, CS3. I think that series of the wafer, the chip, the AI chips that they're creating, and it can actually uh, hold, I think, the entire GPT-4 ChatGPT model on that single wafer. So it is pretty massively efficient from that way, and they claim that okay, you can cut down the cost 20x and cut down the time, of course, as well. So uh, and this company Cerebras, actually, they in the August 2022, they were actually honored by the Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California. The museum added to its permanent collection their their biggest computer chip made by Cerebras. Okay, so they are recognized for the massive scale and size that they have achieved. In June 2022, Cerebras set a record for the largest AI model ever trained on one device. Cerebras said that for the first time ever, a single CS2 system with one Cerebras wafer can train models with up to 20 billion parameters. And the Cerebra's CS2 system can train multi-billion parameter natural language processing models. In fact, they have their own models as well. I think they call it Cerebra's GPD. This company, actually, it was founded actually in 2015 by Andrew Feldman and four other guys who also worked with Andrew in his previous startup C Micro before it was acquired by AMG in 2012. So old gang, they have been doing some good stuff. The They are actually the company began in 2023. The company began building supercomputers for G42. You know, that AI company based in Abu Dhabi, and their prospectus said that G42 represent 87% of its revenue in the first half of the year. G42 has also committed to buy $335 million worth of Cerebra's stock by April of next year, which will give it a stake larger than 5%. So pretty good close partnership they have. So it kind of gives them a confidence that okay, they have some sort of committed pipeline revenue, etc. Um, and they actually plan to go for the IPO. So this Silicon Valley company would be among the first AI company to go public since the release of the Chat GPT nearly 2 years ago. So not too many IPOs have happened for the AI. A lot of the companies have actually deferred their IPOs. Not that there are not enough startups, etc., but they have deferred it and to 2025 to avoid any political volatility, you know, in the market, etc. Um, but Cerebras is bold enough to actually go now, and they have revealed that they brought in $136 million in revenue in the first 6 months of 2024. It does have a loss of $67 million in the first 6 months of the year, which is slightly lesser than the last year. Um, and in terms of the demand of the chip, you know, that continues to rise, and the Nvidia, which actually owns 90% of the market for chips, they reported that the 3 months ending in July, they had more than doubled from a year earlier, more than double. Okay, and the profit also jumped nearly threefold. So the demand is solid on that front. So I think this is a good stock to consider if you are thinking of some chips and you think that Nvidia is too pricey right now. Anyway, let's move on to the launches. There are a bunch of things that actually happened. So let's start with the launches, the OpenAI's Dev Day. Okay. And they came up with some remarkable features. Okay. So let's start with this prompt caching. So the prompt caching is really when you are actually interacting with the model, right? So remember, a lot of that, the prompt is consisting of the system prompt and some of the repetitive stuff. Okay. That goes in every time that you are interacting. So that becomes part of that, the charge that you will pay, because that input that you will put is not just what you are saying, but also the system prompt and some of the data and all those kind of things. And every time you make that query, because these models are stateless, right? So that entire prompt has to go in actually, okay, including the response of the sometime including the response of that previous as well. So it can be pretty repetitive, right, from that point of view. And that's why sometimes the models can be expensive, although the overall cost of models have decreased a lot, by the way, right? In I think last 2 3 years, I think there was some chart from OpenAI which said that 19 the cost has reduced 99%, right? But it's still, the cost can still be high. So what prompt caching does is it actually tries to avoid the repetitive uh, back and forth. So if your next prompt is also about the previous result, it has already cached it. It can just simply use that, right? Or it can actually, like, it already has. So it essentially is going to use that previous input of the prompt and the output. And if your new prompt is not fundamentally different, it can actually use a lot of it. But it can only work if the beginning of the prompt, all the way to wherever it is still common with the previous prompt, is available. Now, let's say if you change the beginning of the prompt itself, okay, fundamentally, and the later part of the prompt is still common with the previous prompt, that prompt caching doesn't work. It has to the f- the the caching really works when the common part is in the beginning itself. Just remember, if you randomly place them, it's not going to work. Now, prompt caching is not something new. Anthropic also actually started that in July. Okay, and now OpenAI is supporting it. But Anthropic actually charges for it. On the other hand, OpenAI has actually default support without additional cost, and I think it is applicable from GPT-4 onwards. So, and this is especially useful when you have prompts with many examples or the large amounts of context or the background information, or you have like repetitive tasks with consistent instructions, or the long multi-turn conversations, particularly in the conversational setting. So that was one announcement. The next announcement from DevDay was the real-time API, and we just had a conversation with ChatGPT, right, using that real-time API. So you already saw how it performs. But this is like similar to ChatGPT's advanced voice mode. The real-time API supports natural speech-to-speech conversations using the 6 preset voices. Okay, um, so that advanced voice mode that we already saw, now it's available as a real-time API. So now you can actually build that same capability. You don't have to just use a ChatGPT, but you can build the same capability in your own apps using that API. And now the important thing is that how does this API really work? So the API, the real-time API, is actually, it creates a kind of a persistent WebSocket connection. Okay, and that's how it can continue back and forth. You can have an interactive conversation um, in the real time, and the developer can pass any text or audio inputs into the GPT-4o, and have the model respond with their choice of text, audio, or both. Now, previously, to create a similar voice assistant experience, the developers had to transcribe like audio with an automatic speech recognition models like Whisper, pass the text to a text model for inference or reasoning, and then play the model's output using a text to speech, right? So there was a conversion involved, speech to text, then do the processing, and then text to speech. And this approach actually resulted in loss of emotion, emphasis, accents, and of course had noticeable latency. It wasn't fast enough for real time. But with this real time advanced voice mode, the it is low latency because there is no conversion from speech to text and text to speech. It is directly speech to speech. Um, and that is why it is actually going to be a game changer. Okay, so you can now do tons of things. And they also actually, and as part of the roadmap, they've also said that okay, there will be more modalities that will come, like the real-time API will support voice, and we plan to add additional modalities like vision and video over time. So that would be fascinating. um, and for the prompt caching also, they have said that they will add support for prompt caching with previous conversation turns, and like some more enhancement that will also happen. The real-time API right now supports the GPT-4o, but in the roadmap, they also have that GPT-4o Mini will also be actually supported in the upcoming version of the model. Okay. The next launch from the OpenAI was actually vision fine tuning. Well, that's very, very, very fascinating. So, vision fine tuning actually on the GPT-4o now makes it possible for you to fine tune that with images. Okay. So, in addition to text, now the developers can customize the model to have stronger image understanding capabilities, which enables applications like enhanced visual search functionality, right, or improved object detection for autonomous vehicles for smart cities, and more accurate medical image analysis. So, I think one of the company, I think Grab, who actually does some delivery, etc., and they in the Asian country, they actually wanted to detect the speed limits more effectively. The speed limit signs were actually not standard or matching with the some of these signs in US, for example. So by feeding those images, and you can do the fine tuning with as few as 100 images. Okay, and that actually drives the the accuracy much more. So almost 20% increase that they can actually see. For example, um, there is a company Automat. It's an enterprise automation company, and they build desktop and web agents that process documents and take UI based actions to automate business processes. Now, with vision fine tuning and a data set of screenshots, the Automat actually trained the GPT-4o to locate the UI elements, the user interface elements on a screen, and gave it a natural language description. And that improved the success rate of their RPA agent from 16.6% to 61.67%, a 272% uplift in performance compared to the base GPT-4o. Additionally, the Automat also trained the GPT-4o on just 200 images of unstructured insurance documents to achieve a 7% lift in F1 score on information extraction tasks. Okay, so massive, massive gain that you can get depending on the use case. Another launch from OpenAI was a distillation, and distillation is really it's a model distillation. The model distillation really involve fine tuning smaller, cost efficient models using outputs from more capable models, allowing them to match the performance of advanced models on specific tasks at much lower cost. So you kind of generate a synthetic data, but a very high quality data, and then you use that data to actually train the lower model. And I think Meta did that same approach when they recently launched some of their models. Um, and so far, distillation is not something new, but so far the distillation has been a multi-step and error-prone process, which required developers to manually orchestrate multiple operations across disconnected tools, from generating data sets to fine-tuning models and measuring performance improvement. And since distillation is inherently iterative, developers needed to repeatedly run each step, adding significant effort and complexity. So now that with this approach, so now they have actually a orchestrated distillation. So with this offering, now the developer can actually create an integrated workflow to manage the entire distillation pipeline directly within the OpenAI platform. So you can actually create the, for example, you can use the models like O1 Preview and GPT-4 to fine tune and improve the performance of more cost efficient models like GPT-4o Mini, right? So, for example, you can use O1 Preview and GPT-4 to actually search creates by changing some setting. Now you can actually generate the output as a stored completions, and that generate the completion output as like input output pair values. Then you can also create the evals, and the evals for the evaluation that you can create, and you can these custom evaluations so that you can measure the efficacy of this fine tuning that you are going to do, right? So you can do the before and after evaluations, so you can create those evals as well. And then you can run actually the fine tuning with the stored completions and the evals operating on that to measure the effectiveness. And then you can actually use the data set, and then you can find out if you are able to actually improve the fine tuning. So all that pipeline can be now integrated and orchestrated within the OpenAI platform. So that's really the big deal from a fine tuning point of view. Um, Final announcement from the OpenAI was actually Canvas. This is an amazing feature. Okay, so it's a new interface for working with ChatGPT on writing and coding projects. So the Canvas is actually, it opens up as a separate window when you're interacting with the ChatGPT Plus. Of course, it works on the apps and the web, not on the phone yet. Um, and it allows you and ChatGPT to collaborate on a project. The canvas was actually built with GPT-4o, and you have to manually select that in the model picker if you're using the ChatGPT Plus application. Now, what happens is that you control the project in Canvas, so you can directly edit text or code. There's a menu of shortcuts that pops up, and for you to ask ChatGPT to adjust the writing length, debug your code, and quickly perform other useful actions. For example, writing shortcut will include suggesting edit or adjust the length or change the reading level from kindergarten to graduate school, or add final polish or add emojis even, right? And coding shortcut will include the like reviewing the code or add logs or add comments or fix bugs, port to a language, another, like you can translate between the languages. And now it is something very similar to what the artifacts is, which is from Anthropic, and they released that in the July. But here are the key difference. Okay, yes, I mean it does pop a new window, but this is a different flavor of it. Okay, so fundamentally, what Artifacts does is it also actually pops a separate window where you can see, for example, you ask it to actually create a chart or a web page or create a code or create a the some writing what you're trying to create content, and you can see that in the window. Okay, it pops up and it will show you as it happens. But the difference is that the canvas is like a creative partner. It's more of an editor. So you can actually edit within that canvas. Okay. You can select the specific part or portion of that window and just edit that. For example, you can edit manually as well. You can ask the ChatGPT to just edit that particular piece. So it's a real time collaboration on writing and coding project. And Canvas also opens up automatically when needed, right? Or you can prompt it to open as well. While the artifacts is more like a console, output console. So it facilitates sharing substantial standalone content in a separate window. It's more of an output console to show the finish, right? So artifacts appear in a dedicated side window. So it's slightly different approach again, for the artifacts and the canvas. Canvas is more of an editor, artifacts is more of a console, to show what it generates. All right, so another launch from Meta this time, and Meta actually showed MovieGen, and it is a video generator, text to video, but it can also create audio as well. And this new AI powered video generator, can you can create the video, the audio clips. You can actually personalize video, like you can feed your own image yourself, your own image, and then ask it to generate a artificial image. You can do the video editing with this. You can generate the audio which actually matches the length and the context of the video. So, however, it is not available for her. So they're gonna. It's a showcase that still has a lot of work to do. That's what Meta said. So they will be working closely with the filmmakers and some creative industry professionals. It is not something available for everyone. It's a wave, right? So they've also talked about that this is the third wave of what we have done. The first time we did it like a create a scene, which was pretty rudimentary actually. Where you can actually create a scene by just simply sketching, and then second one was kind of a llama image, and this is like a third wave of it. We don't know when will this be available for public to actually try, but it is right now not available for obvious reason. Also, I think there are not just that it is technically, it is, I'm sure that it's pretty slow right now, clunky, but then also it will be, they have to put the guardrails, right? So it can be misused as well, things like that. All right. So apart from these launches, now let's head over to the our Azure and Microsoft section, because there were pretty long list of launches there as well. When it comes to the Azure, by the way, so as the dev day, the OpenAI released the real time API, the GPT-4o real time preview API was also actually now available in the Azure. So you can actually try that for GPT-4o. And it is available in preview, so there is no charge until 31st of October. So I would say definitely give it a try. Um, there are some general availability of fine tuning also. So now you can actually do the fine tuning of GPT-4o and the mini models and tailor them for your use case as well. Now, on the Microsoft side, right, the Copilot. So the big announcement that came, and Mustafa Suleiman, who has actually joined Microsoft, right, I think beginning of the year, he now leads actually Microsoft AI. So he's the CEO of Microsoft AI, which is a consumer-led, consumer-oriented group, right, for the consumer-oriented AI. And he said that like the at Microsoft AI, we are creating an AI companion for everyone in your corner by your side. So there were several new features in Copilot that were announced. So let's take a look at that. Number one, Copilot voice. So it just now essentially becomes easier for you to actually now talk to the Copilot in the Copilot voice. It's intuitive, it's natural, sounds much like actually real time advanced voice. Honestly, so just give it a spin, try it out. I'm going to do that as well. It's right now available in English in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, and the US. And it will be expanded to more regions and languages soon as well. Another feature was Copilot Daily. Okay, so Copilot Daily helps you kick off your morning with a summary of news and weather in your favorite Copilot voice, with options like reminders of what's coming soon. So it becomes like your morning assistant who can actually read things for you and give you a summary of things, much like what Alexa used to do. But Copilot can actually integrate with your work data and a lot of other personal data as well. um, it's clean, simple, easy to digest, and it pulls from authorized content sources. They are going to work with a lot of partners like Reuters and Axel Springer and Hearst and USA Today and Financial Times, etc., to actually pull the content. They will also allow the personalization and controls in the Copilot Daily over time. So, but right now it's available in the United States and the United Kingdom, as well as it will be added to more countries soon. Another feature was the personalized discover. Okay, so Copilot Discover actually helps you get going, like offering kind of a handy guide to its useful features and conversation starters, right? Like, for example, how do I talk to my boss for promotion, for example, right? So, kind of they call it jump off points. It actually helps you with that. So, kind of become your personalized, assistant to help you with those conversations and all those kind of things. Um, it is the of course, when it comes to personalization, there's always a privacy also involved, so you can actually set your privacy setting as well in the Microsoft privacy statements and controls that will be available. The Copilot in Microsoft Edge. So Microsoft Edge, which is a browser, has been built into your browser now, so it can quickly help answer questions, summarize page content, translate text, or rewrite a sentence. It's even easier to actually access Copilot directly from the Microsoft Edge by simply typing @Copilot into the address bar. The other feature was Copilot Labs. Copilot Labs actually give people the opportunity to test out the new experimental features, right? So, They are going to bring the features like, which I'm going to talk about it, Copilot Vision and Think Deeper. So Copilot Vision is now a feature available in Copilot Labs for people to try out, right? So it is a it is a new way of interacting with the computer. So Copilot Vision can actually see what you see and can talk to you about it in real time. For example, it understands the web page you are viewing, so both text and images, and can answer question about its content. It suggests the next step and help you without disrupting your workflow, right? So let's say you're trying to furnish a new apartment. So Copilot Vision can actually help you search for furniture, find the right color palette, and think through your options on everything from rugs to throws, and even suggest ways of arranging what you're looking at. And Copilot Vision is now available in the Copilot Labs, and it will be available to a limited number of Copilot Pro subscribers. So it's going to be a part of the paid subscription. Okay, Copilot Pro. The other important feature was think deeper, right? So Copilot can now reason through more complex questions. So many times when you work with the GPT-4 models or other models, you will realize that they're not that good in the reasoning, and that's why the O1 preview and O1 mini was actually launched by OpenAI, because they specialize in reasoning and they're really good, right? People have been um, talking about them with a high praise about how good they are in terms of the reasoning. So you can actually those models will be used here in the Think Deeper feature. But again, Think Deeper is not available for everyone. It will be part of the Copilot Pro users in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, and the US. Okay, it is more like advanced reasoning kind of feature. The other thing is that of course, the safety and security are very, very important issues. Copilot, there were some other features also like recall that came earlier, which kind of created a little bit of a debate about the privacy settings and all those things. But Microsoft has been pretty careful about that. They've delayed some of the features, and they're providing all kind of controls. So you actually opt in. It's not something. These things are not going to be by default uh, open if they involve some privacy concerns. Okay. There is a Bing generative search that also goes beyond simply finding an answer, and it try to understand the search query, reviews millions of sources, and then matches the content and generates search results on the fly. There were features also like a new experience in Copilot Plus PC and Windows 11 that was also actually announced. For example, recall, right? So recall is actually a feature, great feature, because everything that you do on your computer, sometimes you just have seen some image, for example, and just you just can't place it. What is that image name, and where was it placed? I can't find it, right? But you know a little bit description about, okay, it had a dog wearing a sunglass, but you just don't know where it is placed. So you can actually use a recall to actually search for those kind of things, right? I mean, um, and you can go back in the history. So that's what the recall is. It's a very powerful feature. It can help a lot. It was deferred a little bit because of some privacy concerns, but it's going to be coming out very soon. And of course, you have to opt in. It is not going to be by default available. um, there's another feature like Windows search. So again, now Windows search, when you search for things, you don't just say the keyword, but you can actually define what you're looking for. Like again, dogs with sunglasses, for example. You can do the visual search. Let's say you see an image on the page, and then you say that, okay, there is a particular item that you see, and you want that, and then you can actually choose that item and say visual search, and then you can find out on the web or wherever it is available, and then you can match that item, and then you can buy it if you want. Another feature in the Windows will be super resolution in the pictures, right? So there are old pictures, and there's sometimes the pictures the smaller size. When you zoom them, it just gets blurred. So now you can upscale your photos up to 4K within seconds and for free. That would be available in the Windows. There is a generative fill and erase in Paint, so you can actually edit a lot of pictures by doing the erasure or just filling, right? Just like put the lake in the background, for example. There'll be tons of native apps that will be available on the Windows ecosystem as well. And there is something called Click to Do, right? So Click to Do is a feature which will place an interactive overlay on top of the PC screen and enable you like actions across the tools. Like for example, you see something and it can say that, okay, like do the erase using the paint, for example, or blur the background in the photos, for example. So across the, it will give you the options which you can very easily and conveniently, you don't have to open another tool. It will give you the options to do it directly and take you directly there, right? So click to do. All right, so that was enough for. There were a lot of launches from OpenAI and Microsoft and Meta, etc. this week. Let's talk about some of the other things. One of the questions that I get a lot actually from people who ask is, look, I'm not a technical person in AI, and where do I start, right? I mean, I understand the impact of AI. I'm fascinated by it, but I just don't know how to start and where to go. Uh, like, what do I do? So here is what I would suggest, right? So for example, if you don't know AI yet, that's okay. AI is for everyone. What you should just simply do is, I would say, use the Copilot. If you have an access to it, Copilot, just ask Copilot, okay, hey, what can you do for me? And you can tell it that, okay, look, I am this role, like I'm a business analyst, right? Can you define how I can use AI better? So it will give you suggestions. You can also subscribe to ChatGPT Plus, for example, and do some fun stuff. Like, we had some interview. I sometimes do the conversation with it. I ask that the question. To be honest, my search behavior has completely changed. A lot of things that I now do, I don't have to do it. I just ask it to do. Believe me, things that would have taken hours, right? I did my vacation, and I did my entire vacation planning using the Microsoft Copilot. Okay. And it gave me fantastic results. Okay. Gave me the entire itinerary. It helps me actually plan. It helps me plan my meals, where I will eat lunch, and it helps me made it such a wonderful experience in my vacation. And same way, I use AI a lot in my job. So I don't need to be a programmer to actually do this. In fact, you don't, right? I mean, the only thing that you need is just to converse that in the language that it supports, like English or your own language. Just don't need to be. You don't need to feel lost. You just need to take one action. Open Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT, or go to the Edge. It has a now Copilot inbuilt. You can just go and ask, how can it help you in your job? And it will give you a bunch of suggestions. Okay. No excuses. To be honest, just go and start the work. All right. Trivia of the week. Okay. So here's the trivia of the week. Okay. There was actually a fun paper that was actually published, and it is called The Influence of a Large Language Model on Diagnostic Reasoning, a randomized clinical Binet study. So what it does, and there are a bunch of people like from Stanford and a lot of places who actually, the physicians who actually did this study. So they had like 50 physicians. I'm going to simplify that a little bit, but it's technical, and I would also suggest that, you know don't take it as a conclusive study, right? But just an indicative. So there were 50 physicians, 26 attending, 24 residents. They participated with an average of 5.2 cases completed per participant. And what they were given is that there was a control group that was actually given, and they were just asked to actually do their diagnosis based on all these uh, traditional tools like X-rays and all the traditional tools that are available to them. Just do that, and see how fast they can do it, how well they can do it, right? The accuracy of the diagnostic reasoning. And there was another half of the group who were actually given the access to GPT-4, and then they were compared. So all the cases were actually based on the actual patients and included data available on initial diagnostic evaluation, history, physical exam. However, that data wasn't available on the internet at all. So there is no way that GPT-4 would have been actually trained on it. So GPT-4 also had not seen that data before. The median time that the physician spent per case was, like 519 seconds. And for the conventional group, like who did not have the access to GPT-4, they spent about 565 seconds. Um, the GPT-4 group actually had a 1.4 higher odds of a more correct diagnosis. Um, the the median diagnostic reasoning score per case was 76.3% for the GPT-4 group and 73.7% for the conventional resources group, with an adjustable difference of 1.6 percentage points. The median time spent on cases for the GPT-4 group was 519 seconds compared to 565 seconds for the conventional resources group, with a time difference of about 82 seconds. So there is actually marginal improvement when the physicians were using the GPT-4 in the time that they had to spend on that case, as well as the diagnostic reasoning. The important thing, however, is this. Okay, they also did the same diagnosis using just the GPT-4. So outside these two groups, the bunch of expert physicians, they use the same GPT-4 on the same cases. And the surprising result was that the diagnostic reasoning, the GPT-4 alone, actually scored 15.5 percentage points higher than the conventional resources group. So that's actually quite surprising. GPT-4 alone got 88% on that score, where the others got like 73 and 76% respectively. The thing is that the doctors who were using GPT-4, why didn't they get actually that high score? I think the challenge is that this study also suggests that it's not just about that the doctors were not willing. Maybe they were not too open to listen to the LLM or consider what LLM was suggesting. But I think it was also that the way the training wasn't probably as adequate um, in terms of the prompt engineering skills, right? So it's not just about that resistance to use it, it's also about, are they equipped to use it better? I think that's an important aspect. So that's a great finding. What it also suggests is that, okay, if we use the technology and AI, there is a lot of impact that we can make in the field like healthcare and diagnosis, right? um, it is no surprise. I mean, honestly, misdiagnosis is a big problem. It happens a lot. It's a very significant problem in the healthcare industry, and a lot of time it's because just physicians don't have enough time to actually spend on the patient. So the technology can actually make it faster. It can remind them for like different possibilities what physician might have missed. Right? They might be distracted. They might be burned out. Whatever. I think life is sacred, so it is important that we use, like, I would prefer, actually, my doctor uses the AI to augment, to rethink, to take a second opinion, right, and rethink and consider all the possibilities. I would not want my doctor to not use the technology. I have had actually terrible instances of the misdiagnosis on myself and in my family, so I'm particularly keen on the doctors who use the technology. Um, I would not want just the AI to actually do the everything, but I want actually the physician and AI to work together and in the earnest. Okay, not just like without the skills, right? Honestly, learning the skill and use that tool, just like they will use the other tools like X-rays and MRIs. Those are also just the tools to validate. So why not AI as well? Okay. Well, I think long episode this week took quite a bit of time. So, but I think it was fun. So, thank you everyone for listening. And with that, I'll call it a wrap. And but don't forget to share, subscribe, like, comment, and let us know whatever we can do better. Okay. But thank you so much for listening. Okay. Bye.